Welcome to Miss Lam's Math World. Today we are going to discuss the way to solve the equations with square root signs like this. So if we want to solve this kind of problem, we need to actually take square on both sides with the radical sign on the left and everything else on the right. And in this session, you have actually no need to let anything. So please cross it out. Because when we square on both sides, you already get the value of x to solve, right? So for example, in part A, so you got the question x minus square root 2x minus 1 equals to 8. And I personally like the positive square root sign in one side, okay? And then everything else plus 8 becomes minus 8 on the right. And then take square on both sides. Square root square, right? Take the square. Square root and square, it means we only have itself, right? Take square on both sides, so the square and square root are crossed out and you only get the original value. On the left, x squared minus 16x plus 64. Remember, a minus b squared equals to a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Remember the term in the middle. Similarly, we also need to be careful on the positive also. Positive, so we also get 3 terms. So this is the common mistake. So x squared minus 18x plus 65. So 65 equals to 5 times 13. And we add them together, we get 18. So x is equal to 5 or 13. But we have to check the validity of the answer. That means we have to check which one is the correct one, because this one is actually only degree 1, right? We should only have at most one real root. So please substitute each of them, like 5 on the left and then 13 on the left. If you substitute 5 on the left hand side, so you will already get 5 minus something, which is already less than x, right? So we reject it. This is not correct. And then 13 we have to also substitute on the left hand side. So 13 minus 2 times 13 minus 1, that means 25 equals to 8. So it is correct. So it means the answer is 13. So let me tidy up the work. Alright, so let me give you another important note of this one. Okay, so that is a kind of common mistake in this session, because many of you see a square root here and then you feel quite unhappy. So many of you, you see, Miss Lam says in the lesson, we are always asked to take square on the both sides in part A. So some of you might do it this way, right? So x squared minus 2 times x times square root 2x minus 1 plus 2x minus 1 square root and then square. So why this method is not good? You see here, we still got the square root sign. The radical sign is still here. So we haven't solved the problem. The way to solve the problem is we have to move away the square root sign, right? So we can take it away. And after we take square on both sides, the square root should be gone. But here, the square root sign is still here. So why? So the reason is, in this method, we haven't put the square root on its own. the correct way is to put the only square root sign in one of the part left or right of the equation. So if you understand this method, then it will be not difficult to do part B. So let's move on to part B. In part B, this term will be the only term with the radical sign. So we keep it on one of the side. Oh, sorry, this time I still want to put it on the right. But then it is a separate example because many of you might not good at index law. What does it mean? For index law, we will actually share the square to both parts. That means 2 square. It's be 4, right? And then x minus 2 square and square root, you get x minus 2. So 10 square, 100. 2 times 10 is 20. X plus x squared. 4x minus 8. And then put everything to the left. So we use cross method again. So we have both of them negative, and then 108 we have 6 times 18, right? So you get x is equal to 6 or 18. Alright, so this time we reject 18 and we got x is equal to 6 as the answer. Finally, I want to discuss example 1.16. So for this question, we can still use the same method as before. What does it mean? That means you may also move everything to the left and then take square on both sides. So you may also do it in this way. So this is method 1. Same as before. But then right now I wish to discuss another method because you can see x is the square of square root x. So we are using square root x square equals to x. That means if I let y to be square root x, y is equal to square root x, then the question will become hy squared. Because this one is actually, we are using another color, x square root x and then square for this one. And then plus 2y minus 1 is equal to 0. So solve it, you get the values of y, and then we substitute back for square root x. So this time, for square root number, we cannot be negative. So we just reject this one because the value is negative. And then, there is a common mistake in this part. So whenever we want to solve equation, we need to be careful. So square root x means power 1 over 2. To be careful, we can use it this way. That means we use the index law to avoid the careless mistake. Then, after we do so, we can check the way to make the power to be 1. And so 1 over 2 times 2 equals to 1, right? So we take square on both sides. And then you get x is equal to 1 over 16. And don't forget to substitute the answer into the equation to check if it is correct. Alright, so after checking it is correct, so we can finish the question in this way. Alright? So, to conclude, in this session, we can actually put the square root sign in one part for method 1 to solve the equation. And if one of the term is actually having a variable to be square of the other one, then we can actually use the substitution of y is equal to square root x. We of course always substitute for the smaller power of a term. And lastly, when we take square on both sides, or we use the use this substitution method, then remember we should only get one solution because it's only degree 1. That's the end of today's math lesson. See you next time.